one of the biggest takeaways I had, and it wasn't until like after everything had happened, was I think that Alex truly deserved like one last bicycle ride, right? People that genuinely care about one another came together in that moment in one of the most beautiful ways I can think of.
Hey everyone, Ellen Marley here. We're sharing a short episode today. It's a conversation we had with Jarrod Alder before our DFL discussion in the previous episode.
Jarrod was a key organizer of Minneapolis's Alex Pretti Memorial Ride on January 31st, held just a few days after Pretti's murder at the hands of ICE agents. The ride in Minneapolis saw over 5,000 participants, and there were more than 300 rides around the world.
This is a story of riding as resistance, of how the cycling community came together to honor one of our own and to take a stand. We hope you take away a feeling of hope, that you are not alone in feeling feelings about what is happening, and leave with one example of how everyone can find a way to oppose what's happening.
As of airing this episode, at least 6 people have been killed by ICE this year, and ICE is still active across Minnesota. News outlets are reporting as many as 500 agents are still on the ground, which, while being reported as a drawdown, is still a huge and disruptive presence. For ways to support our neighbors in the North, we've linked to a Reddit thread with links to dozens of organizations. Nationwide, you can also call your representatives and voice your opinion. Here is our conversation with Jarrod.
I met Alex like a few weeks prior,
Yeah.
and he just came in. He was like this breath of fresh air, and we hit it off. And I was like, shit. Like in being in retail for like 26 years in the bike industry, you can count on a couple hands how many folks really stick out from like a first instance meeting. And he was definitely one of them. And I realized all of it when we started piecing stuff together. And I was just like, I think we were all completely distraught here. And I think a lot of folks were just like, what do we do to feel like some sort of normalcy and also like honor someone? And I was like, man, we should do a bike ride. And then someone was like, hey, we're talking about this. And I was like, let's just all come together on this thing and see what happens. I don't really ever utilize any of like the back end of like folks I've met over the last 26 years of it. But this was one of the few times where I was like, all right, well, every single person that I've made contact with, I'm going to reach out to for this. And it's good I held on to the cards that long in my entire existence. I think it was a worthwhile cause for it. I don't know. It's like the only thing you can think to do in the moment.
Right.
Kind of a resistance through joy situation.
Absolutely. I said that. I was like, I mean,
Yeah.
it really is. It's like, riding bicycles in an occupation is for sure an absolute and utter form of resistance, right? Like we are existing, we are occupying the street, we are taking everything back. In that moment, I don't know that I thought this way initially. I was like, I just didn't think it necessarily would happen. But so like everyone that has been locked in their houses for like weeks, residents were coming out of their houses and just standing, and like they were outside at the most sunny time of the day for like 45 minutes. I mean, the rollout was 45 minutes to an hour. There were well over 5,000 people.
Yeah, it
And
was incredible.
when I realized like that was what was happening, we were all just blown away, because you shouldn't feel uncomfortable to go out of your house. Like that's fucking ridiculous. I feel very powerless, right? Like we are in Minneapolis now. You can't really stand up, or you're going to get like your DNA taken and fingerprinted and be federally charged if you stand up, or in the worst scenario, what we saw happen, like you get fucking murdered in the streets. It's weird, like you feel super powerless. And it's like, what is the one thing we can do? We can all come together. And in this group of people, in this mass, right? And critical masses have proven it for years. Like we are fully united and full of power. And I think that, it ended up becoming like the largest critical mass ride globally. I don't know, maybe this ever happened.
I
Some folks
have
have
to think
said.
it's really high up there, yeah.
And I think it just shows that everyone's on the same page with it, right? And like we are not divided when it comes to being morally just, and we are not divided when it comes to loving our neighbors. And I think that, at least for a moment, the world felt, I don't want to say normal, but it felt like a moment of togetherness that hadn't existed prior.
Felt like it was less upended.
Yeah. It was really heavy, and there was a moment that it wasn't heavy. Yes, and I think that joy in that moment was that resistance, right? Like you're just like, you can't take my heart away from us. You can't take our neighbors away from us.
Yeah. I think what you said about power is important. I think a lot of people feel like we've lost our agency in what we can do to fight back and be effective.
Yeah.
And the Alex Pretti rides, especially the one in Minneapolis, but having so many across the country and the world too, I think gave that sense of power back to a lot of people.
Yeah.
If you
We
are not in a position where you can stand up and possibly die, what can you do? You can
Right.
show up in mass and say, "We are not standing for this."
Absolutely. Because if someone pulled up on us during that, like, we all had each other's backs, right? Like, no one was left behind, and different folks exist in different places. Like, I've got no children. I'm loud. I'm very tall and massive. I command space wherever I am generally, and,
Mhm.
utilizing that. If they take me away, then they take me away, but it's just like, we need to stand up for everyone, and if we have the ability and power to stand up, like, someone that has children can't, you know what I mean? So just knowing our roles in community, knowing who our neighbors are, like,
Mhm.
uh, working with mutual aid groups that you may not even have known existed, and if you don't, create structure for new ones. I think we're gonna need to see that happen more and more. They're saying it's winding down, but it's not winding down. Nothing's
Yeah.
changed. Yesterday, they ran someone off the road in St. Paul. I think people are getting to the point where, like, they're getting sad and they're getting more broken, and it's very hard to, like, stand day in and day out and try and exist in this society and, like, act normal.
Mhm.
Mhm.
It just doesn't happen. It's just, like, really hard to fake. I'm supposed to talk about
Absolutely.
bicycle products on the internet, right? And I know there is a point to it. Like, we have folks that need paychecks, and it's like that moment existing on a bicycle is, maybe that's your reset, right? So that you can keep going. I know that, like, riding a bike, Mid-South specifically, right? We're talking about, like, that event every year for me had been that, like, critical reset in my life, and I needed it for so many years.
I think also everything you said, I've seen echoed of how do you figure out how to resist in the way that feels safe and authentic to you, and then to find these moments of joy so that you can rest. Witnessing Minneapolis and saying it's real and saying it's true is important to the people who are in Minneapolis because then they know they're not forgotten. They know what they're fighting for.
Mhm.
And honestly, seeing Minneapolis not stand down and putting up many middle fingers to what's going on is what gives me hope that we're not repeating history in a like true parallel. Not like we're obviously repeating some history. And also, we know what fascism looks like and we know how to stand up against it. And
Mhm.
don't go to war with winter people in the winter.
Yeah, they
So,
fucked up, like,
yeah. But it created such a blueprint that I know people in Missouri are looking to say, "If this comes to us, we know how to organize, and we're going to organize now so that
yeah.
we are ready."
There is no time like the present. I think that's the biggest thing to take away. If you're not already organizing or organized, then you're not, like, left behind, but it is harder now that, like, they have adapted and they are, like, doing things like, not dressing in camouflage, and they're trying to, like, blend in and act like they're your neighbor. And in the wildest cases, they are our neighbors. They're just the shittiest version of our neighbors. And that is just, like, that is super detrimental, right? Like, from a standpoint of, like, who do I trust? So I
Mhm.
think it's
Yep,
important to, like, actually know your neighbors
yep.
and talk with them, get together, like, have community dinners. One of the things I always loved about Minneapolis when I would visit over the last 10 years was exactly how it felt, like, welcoming and loving and inviting, even to someone who, like, didn't live here.
If anything you take away from this conversation, dear listeners, it is to go plan a walk, plan a bike ride, plan a door
Yeah,
knocking thing to where you actually meet everybody so that you do know what's going on when someone incorrect knocks on your door.
yeah,
So,
for sure.
It's really interesting. So I live in a big apartment building, and I'm thinking about how do we organize within this apartment building that probably 500 people live in. Like, we've got power
mhm,
here, uh, and like I've been talking to a couple neighbors, and we're setting up signal chats, and we're figuring things out. 'Cause you never know what's going to happen, but it feels
mhm.
like there's a lot of power in being in like a concentrated building too.
Agreed.
True. Yeah, I'm moving from a house that I'm in now, and then I'm gonna move to an apartment complex just to be, like, closer to work and stuff. And one of the exciting things about that is, like, how easy it is to know your neighbors and, you
Forced
know
proximity.
Mhm.
Yeah, and so many cute dogs.
Beth, was there anything you wanted to chime in?
I was just going to ask, it sounds like it was a really positive experience. I'm just curious, like, Were there any negative experiences?
Not that I've heard from folks that were
Yeah.
riding their bicycle. Like, we had medics and we had, like, armed
Yeah.
security on the ride, which is kinda crazy to say, and none of that had to be utilized, fortunately.
That's good.
But I think with any critical mass ride or style of that is you're always gonna have someone, like, driving and they're like, "Oh, didn't really have any like, too many boos, mostly, like, positive cheering through every intersection we went
That's
through."
good.
We were corking, like, a block up in most cases, so, like, really, truly, like, you're not gonna come to the ride and have to turn around, like, you're gonna be turned around before you would get to the ride.
Yeah.
It's like we had over 50 marshals, and we certainly didn't have enough for 5,000
Mhm.
people. I would think that 150 marshals would still be lacking the numbers that we needed. But again, like, when we all set out to do it, I was like, "Cool, if we have, like, 150 or 200 people show up, like, that'll be exceptional, right?" And then we have, like, 300 rides happen. It's just one of those wild scenarios where you believe everything in your heart, like, where there is this amount of good that's still left in the world, this, like, morally just and opposing body of people, and then you just find out that it's like the whole fucking world is joining in the resistance, knowing that folks in Germany and Finland and the UK and Australia and from nearly every state in the United States has Minneapolis's back is amazing. Folks that weren't even riding bikes, they were just like, "Hey, I just wanna support what you're doing." It's like people that genuinely care about one another came together in that moment in one of the most beautiful ways I can think of. Like, riding a bicycle saved my life, and it felt pretty magical to share that with everyone. One of the biggest takeaways I had, and it wasn't until, like, after everyone rode bikes, was I think that Alex truly deserved, like, one last bicycle ride, right? Like, at the very least. And we were all able to come together around the world to give him, like, one last trip, like, truly around the world, and that is the magic of the bicycle, and that is the magic of, like, community, and, that felt pretty incredible.
Thank you for sharing all of this.
Yeah,
And thank you for your work organizing this.
you
It's
bet.
incredible. We love you, Minneapolis.
Yeah. I'm such a sympathy crier. Like, what
I
you're saying
know.
is impossible, but I'm also like, I'm gonna.
That's joyful crying right there, like, I just know that we're stronger, and I know that, if anything, it brought us all together in a really magical way.
Minnesota still needs our support. Please visit the link in the comments to find a list of organizations in Minnesota that are providing financial aid, legal services, community trainings, food, mutual aid, and more.